I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog, part 2 on my NDP government's new housing strategy, their new taxes that they're implementing here to try and curb and cool this red-hot Vancouver housing market and make homes more affordable for people. Last blog, I gave you some of the new changes that they've made, increasing the foreign buyers tax, increasing the property transfer tax from 3 to 5%, the foreign buyers tax from 15 to 20. Also, I talked about what they're calling a speculation tax for non-residents or people that do not live and file taxes in BC. It's not really a speculation tax, though. It's really a vacation home tax, which I'm going to get into more details here. The bottom line is, do I see this really helping the average guy in downtown Vancouver or Richmond or Burnaby to make housing more affordable? No, I don't. I just see this as really an additional tax grab, especially on the successful higher net worth people, which the NDP always loves to go after. It's kind of their modus operandi. They've even added now a luxury tax on cars over $125,000. I saw in the budget here they're expected to bring in about $10 million from this luxury car tax, which is just crazy. $10,000 in the overall scheme of things is peanuts, of course. It's not even going to do anything. Yet you're ticking off 500 or 600 business owners, CEOs, people that are employing other people for what? To collect a $10,000 tax. But this is typical of how governments sometimes think, not just the NDP. They think it's just easy, let's tax them to death, and there's no repercussions or there's no downside to it, when there is, and they don't really fully bake that into what they're trying to do with the taxes. You know, just off topic here, I have to say that if someone could tell me, BC and Vancouver in general has got to be one of the only places I know in the world where people welcome more taxes. We are already taxed. We are amongst some of the most taxed people in the world, in North America by far, especially when you compare us to the United States. We're not competitive. We are heavily taxed here, both on a corporate tax level as well as a personal tax level here. And I don't know of any place in the world that welcomes more taxes. Yet a lot of people seem to think these are good ideas to tax, put more money on real estate taxes, and PTT and foreign buyers tax and luxury car tax. I don't know. I mean, if this was, let's say, introduced in Southern California, where they said we're going to charge you another $20,000 if you're not living in your home full time, and we're going to raise your property transfer tax another 2%. They would be up in arms on it. They would be saying, you know, we're taxed to death. I don't want to add another $40,000 or $50,000 a year to purchasing a home. We need those prices to come down. And more taxes is not going to make the prices come down. All this is going to put more money into the coffers of the government, which they're going to mismanage and waste away. I mean, geez, they're going to spend $50 million just wasting on what they want to do with the George Massey Tunnel. And should we put a bridge in there and scrap that idea? I think they've already burned through $20 or $30 million just on the surveys and doing the research on it, and they've scrapped the idea. So let me talk about the speculation tax here. And I should tell you too, for me, business goes on. I've been through so many of these tax changes over the last 30 years. Governments come and go. They get the great idea to tax you. But only in Canada, though, in BC here, do we welcome more taxes. But it's business as usual, and I don't think these taxes, to be quite honest, are going to do anything to curb the red-hot Vancouver market we've got here. The thing that's going to curb that is going to be supply and demand issues, maybe some more interest rate hikes down the road. But the speculation tax, that is the wild card here. So just let me point out here, if you are living in BC, and this is what I know as of now, and things are changing, I've still got more information I've got to collect on this, because how it was written is very vague on how they're going to collect this tax, and even the NDP government now has admitted that we're not even sure how we're going to administer this speculation tax. But if you live in BC and you pay taxes in British Columbia, you are allowed, from what I understand, to have a vacation home up in Kelowna or Penticton or up in Whistler. You can use it for a month out of the year, or 2 or 3 months, it doesn't matter. I also believe, if I'm not mistaken, if it's outside of Vancouver and you own that home and you're a Canadian BC taxpayer, you can keep it empty. Unless someone can correct me on that, if it's in Vancouver, you have to file the empty homes tax. But if you've got an empty cabin up in Kelowna that you've just been sitting empty for 2 years, but you're a BC taxpayer, you're still out of reach from this tax. Who it does get, though, are non-residents of BC who either have an empty home. If you're living in Vancouver, you're already caught up in the empty homes tax anyway, so consider this an extension of it. You might live in Alberta, California, Oregon, whatever. If you've got a house that's empty or a house that you're not using full-time and do not have a full-time tenant in it, you're going to be subject to a 0.5% tax on the assessed value this year, and that's going to skyrocket up to 2% of the assessed value next year. So I've been inundated with phone calls here. I have several clients here. I've had to make some phone calls here and talk to my clients about this to let them know about what's happening. I've got a client that I sold into a Coal Harbor condo about 6 years ago, who lives in California. Him and his family come up here in the summer. They also come up here in the winter. They let friends use it. I don't know, I would say maybe out of the year, it's maybe occupied 100 days out of the year. Tough to say. So he is going to be wrapped up in this tax. He is now going to be hit. That condo now is probably worth $850,000. So he's looking at $15,000, $16,000 next year if he wants to keep that condo on top of his regular property taxes for the year and the maintenance fees and everything else. So he's going to have a decision to make here over the next year. Does he want to keep it, pay this exorbitant tax, or just sell it? He's made a lot of money on it. I sold him that condo for far less than what it's worth now. Take that money and, hey, he can live like a king. He could, just the $20,000 speculation tax, he could come up here and rent an Airbnb for a month or 6 weeks or whatever he wants. Stay at the Four Seasons if he wants for that kind of money. So he'll have to make a decision. You know, I also have another client that I sold into a Steveston property. I'll give you another situation. She was born and raised in Richmond, moved to the United States about 7 years ago, came back up here 3 summers ago, and I sold her a waterfront unit in Steveston in Richmond. Now, her and her husband are coming up here in the summers. They come up here a bit in the winters. They let friends and family and their kids use the property from time to time. The goal, though, of course, is eventually, maybe in another 5 to 10 years, they're going to retire and probably come back up here, move back up to Richmond and retire in this unit. So the way the speculation tax, what they're calling a speculation tax, this is for people that are speculating on property, parking money here, and according to Carol James, driving the prices up. These two situations I just told you about, they are not speculators in any way. They're using these properties. They're not speculating or parking money. So we'll have to see. These people should be exempt from this tax, but I have a feeling they're probably not, but only time will tell on this. But they are not speculators, and that's the problem when you get into these unwielding taxes that governments like to throw down. It's like a carpet bomb. To get to the real source, so the real source would be a guy who is parking money here. Maybe he's a buyer from China who's bought up several condos and they're just sitting empty. Now, if he lives in Vancouver, we've already covered that. He's got an empty homes tax he's got to declare, and he will get taxed. This new speculation tax is going to cover the rest of the province. So that is something that's targeted that is good. If it's sitting there, it's empty, it doesn't have a tenant in it, he's not using it for a vacation property, it's just parking money, then tax these people by all means. But of course, when you carpet bomb something, you take out the good with the bad. And the good would be people that have owned properties up here for decades, vacation homes, with no intention of ever selling them. They're not parking money. They love the province. They like to come up here. They come up here and they spend money. They're coming up here and they're going to Cyprus. They're going up to Whistler. They're buying ski passes. They're going to dinners. They're buying bicycles. They're riding the seawall. They're shopping, restaurants, bars. They pump a lot of money into this economy, far more than what the government is going to take in this tax, or even worse, if they just decide enough is enough. BC, you don't want me here. You're closed for business, which is the message we're sending. Owen, sell the property. I'm gone. I'll go someplace else. Think about this. This is unprecedented what they're doing here, really. Can you imagine if a city like Fort Lauderdale or Palm Beach or St. Petersburg, Florida, decided, hey, we're going to hit all these snowbirds from Ontario with a $25,000 a year tax levy on their condo. There's something like I think altogether, there's something like 1 million Canadians that snowbird down to the United States. Can you imagine if the city of Fort Lauderdale decided to do that, and the uproar? First off, the uproar would come from the people of Fort Lauderdale, the business owners, the car rental companies. They would say, are you nuts? You're killing the goose that's laying the golden eggs. These Canadians come down here, these snowboards, and drop billions into our economy every year. This is essentially what the NDP government is doing here. And I don't think downtown Vancouver is going to be hit all that hard. But a place like Whistler, a place like Kelowna, Penticton, some of these places might get hit a lot further, and the repercussions on this are going to take some time to come out here. You're going to see a lot of this in the news coming up. I've already read some articles in the Globe and Mail talking about people from Calgary who own vacation properties in Kelowna, and there's a lot of them. That's an area that might be hit quite hard from this. But these people are not speculators. These are vacation homes. So I don't know what this is going to do here to solve the affordability crisis, going after some snowbirds and some people that are coming up here from the US and Calgary who own vacation homes. It's crazy. It's not going to add anything to the supply. All you're doing here is you're sending a message, as I say, to people that BC doesn't want you here. Unless you're born and raised in Vancouver or BC and you pay taxes here in BC, we don't want you in this province. We don't want you owning real estate in this province. We don't want you coming up to Whistler every winter and staying in your chalet, or coming to Yaletown 2 or 3 times a year, or letting your friends come up from the States to stay in your little pied-à-terre in Yaletown. I don't think it's good, but it's not going to have any effect on the overall market. But that's where we're at. That's what this budget is about. I think a lot of this stuff is just smoke and mirrors, folks. I really do. They're not really addressing anything about affordability. How we're going to get the affordability under control, it's not by adding more taxes. You can't curb demand, and which is what they continue to do here unsuccessfully. Look at what they've done over the last 2 years just on the mortgage tightening. It's very difficult to even get a mortgage, yet the market has continued to roll. The reason is because demand here continues to increase every single month. People want to live here. That's not going to stop. We need to be starting to address the supply issue, pumping out some more supply. Trying to curb demand with more taxes is not the right way to go, but I know I'm going to get some criticism from that. You're a realtor, and hey, that's the way realtors think. The bottom line is this isn't going to affect my business one way or another. But listen, we'll see where this goes. I've still got more information to collect on this. Maybe these people from Calgary and some people that own vacation homes here and have no intention of selling these, they're not speculators, they should be exempt. If the NDP wants to do the right thing, they should. But we'll see where it goes. Government's never met a tax they didn't like. They don't really understand when you tax something and take this money in, there's a cost to that. And the cost to that is you're telling people that BC is not open for business. And we don't want you up here. We don't want you owning property up here. And this is unprecedented. I don't know of any other city like this that's currently doing this on vacation properties. And as I say, if they did this in Southern California or Florida to the snowbirds from Ontario, they would be up in arms about this. It would never go through because the city council and the people in Fort Lauderdale, if the state of Florida tried to pass this, would say we're going to lose billions of dollars in tax revenue here. Crazy. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, I'll probably post a few more blogs on this in the near future here. I'll look forward to your comments. See you next time.